The air at Forrester Creations crackles with tension as Carter Walton steps into the open-plan atelier on Wednesday, July 23rd, only to freeze in his tracks when his eyes settle on Daphne Rose standing amid the racks of haute couture. The man who thought he'd safeguarded his heart by turning away from his past is struck dumb by the living embodiment of every memory he buried, the vibrant laughter, the gentle warmth, the unspoken promise of a future he once believed he'd forfeited. Carter's pulse thundered in his ears as he watches Daphne's gaze meet his, her expression unreadable at first before flickering with surprise, hesitation, and a hint of something unnameable, perhaps curiosity, perhaps regret. The glossy sheen of Paris's latest fabrics, the whirl of seamstresses and models, all fade into the periphery as Carter's world narrows, impossibly, to the slender form standing before him. Their shared history thunders between them like a confession yet to be made, and for a moment, every leather-trimmed chair, every silver rack of evening gowns, feels like the stage for a revelation that could shatter the facade he's so carefully constructed. As whispers ripple through the workspace, "Isn't that Daphne? She was supposed to stay away forever," Carter braces himself, uncertain whether he's prepared for the reckoning her return demands. Meanwhile, elsewhere in the same hallowed halls of fashion and fury, Brooke Logan races against time to save what she's convinced is her last chance of happiness. On Tuesday, she corners Ridge Forrester in his glass-encased office, drowning in the weight of every shared glance, every silken night, every vow they once wove together amidst Forrester's luminescent chandeliers. Brooke's voice trembles with equal parts determination and desperation as she reminds Ridge that fate has handed them this moment one final time, the crossroads where they must choose between clinging to past grievances or forging a new path together. Her words tumble out in a rush, how she's waited, how she's loved, how every fiber of her being still belongs to him, yet Ridge, cool and composed in his tailored navy suit, lifts a slender hand to stay her entreaties. His eyes, hardened by years of betrayal and half-spoken fears, meet hers without the warmth she craves. He speaks of Taylor Hayes, of a fresh start built on shared understanding, of a future he believes now rests with Taylor's gentle strength. "Brooke," he says, voice calm yet irrevocable, "you deserve a man who can give you his whole heart, unburdened by ghosts. I have moved on. You must too." He extends his hand as if offering friendship, not the torched earth love she demands, and as that slender hand hovers between them, Brooke feels the icy realization that her dream of reunion may have slipped beyond her grasp forever. Yet the storm at Forrester is never complete without the roar of family conflict, and next up is the explosive showdown between half-brothers Nick Marone and Ridge. Word of Nick's impending arrival at the fashion house has already set tongues wagging. This is no polite social call, but a calculated incursion into Ridge's kingdom. As Nick strides into the heart of the atelier, he carries himself with a swagger that promises fireworks, each footstep echoing like a challenge. He seeks out Ridge by the grand sketching table, surrounded by swatches of silk and the hushed concentration of designers, an ironic backdrop for the verbal battle about to unfold. With a crooked smile, Nick launches into a litany of provocations about Ridge's fickle loyalties, his restless heart, his endless betrayals of Brooke. "I want my cake and eat it too," he declares, "and I know Brooke still belongs on my plate." His insinuations land like blows, each barb aimed to expose the hollow center of Ridge's convictions. Ridge, for his part, cools to an impassive reserve, but the color in his cheeks says more than words ever could. When he reminds Nick that Brooke is free to choose any man she pleases, though he hopes she has the wisdom to steer clear of Nick's siren song, there is a crack in his voice, a flicker of vulnerability that Nick sweeps up with predatory glee. The brothers circle one another verbally, old grudges springing to life in every accusation, every retort, until the atelier itself seems to tremble under the weight of their enmity. And yet, beneath the flash of Carter's disbelief, Brooke's plea, and Nick's brazen defiance lies another question burning through the corridors of Forrester Creations. Why has Daphne Rose changed her mind about Los Angeles? Just weeks ago, Steffi Forrester had begged her childhood friend to return, to help shoulder the burdens of family loyalty and business intrigue, only to be met with a firm refusal. Now, as whispers swirl that Daphne will stay, or perhaps stay longer, everyone wonders what has shifted in her heart. Is it Carter's impending nuptials to Hope Logan that sends her scrambling back, fearing a life haunted by unspoken what-ifs? Is it loyalty to Steffi that finally tips the scales, or something more personal? A fear of loss so acute it trumps every rationale she once clung to? For Forrester's top brass, Daphne's return could be a godsend, a fresh face, a spark of creativity, a steady hand. But for Carter it injects a potent dose of uncertainty into his future. As the season hurtles toward these revelations, every whispered conversation in the hallways, every clash in the boardroom, every lingering glance in the mirror foreshadows a reckoning that could redefine alliances, romance, and rivalries. In a world where love is a currency more volatile than the finest silk and loyalty dissolves faster than the most decadent couture, one thing is certain. At Forrester Creations, nothing is ever final, and every heart hidden in shadow is bound to be exposed in the glare of high drama. Eric Forrester stood at the edge of the sun-drenched terrace overlooking the rolling Tuscan hills, his silver hair gleaming like a crown of light as he raised his glass in a heartfelt toast to true love, the very force he'd long championed at Forrester Creations. The audience gathered in the courtyard below, fashions glitterati and press in equal measure, held their breath as he spoke of destiny guiding two souls through every storm, of passion unbroken by time, of bonds that transcend even the gravest betrayals. His voice, rich with sincerity, carried on the warm Italian breeze, weaving a spell that made every guest believe, if only for a moment, in a fairy tale romance set against the golden vineyards of Tuscany. Yet behind Eric's words lay a churning sea of hidden agendas and smoldering rivalries, for this gala in Italy was meant to be the ultimate stage for a love triangle more treacherous than any they'd ever seen. From the shadows of the Palazzo's grand archways, Nick Marone watched Ridge Forrester and Brooke Logan laugh beneath candlelit bistro tables. His jaw tightened as Brooke's laughter rang out like a promise unfulfilled, a siren song calling him back to the past he refused to relinquish. He had followed them across the Atlantic, an uninvited ghost determined to seize what he believed was rightfully his. While the crowd marveled at Eric's homage to romance, Nick's mind raced with a plan forged in equal parts desperation and devotion. Tonight, he would whisk Brooke onto the rooftop terrace, stun her with a proposal for the ages, Candian diamonds glinting against the starlight, knelt at her feet as if destiny itself commanded her to say yes. His heart pounded at the thought of reclaiming her love in a single, breathtaking moment. But as he slipped away from the gala's eulogies to true love, his path intersected with a far more cunning force, Taylor Hayes, her eyes alight with steely resolve and an unspoken threat. Taylor had arrived in Italy under the guise of goodwill, eager to support Ridge as he navigated the aftermath of Brooke's latest entreaties. Yet beneath her tranquil smile lay a calculating mind bent on sabotage. She had learned of Nick's covert surveillance, his whispered phone calls at odd hours, his inexplicable disappearances from daytime festivities, the furtive glances he cast toward Ridge whenever his back was turned. Taylor's intuition, honed by years of rivalry and heartbreak, told her that Nick's proposal was no grand romantic gesture, but a ploy to undermine Ridge and reclaim a love that had eluded him for years. As Eric concluded his speech with a flourish, Taylor slipped away, weaving through the throng until she found Nick perched at the far end of the terrace, rehearsing lines under his breath, his pocket bulging with the velvet ring box. She approached him coolly, her voice low and composed. "You're playing a dangerous game." Nick glanced up, startled to see Taylor's unwavering gaze meet his own. "I'm giving her what she deserves," he whispered, his tone equal parts defiance and longing. Taylor's lips curved into a thin smile. "Or what you think she deserves," she replied, stepping closer so only he could hear. "What happens when she discovers you bent the truth to win her heart?" Behind them, Ridge and Brooke shared a private joke, oblivious to the conspiracy unfolding mere meters away. Taylor's eyes flicked to the happy couple, then back to Nick. "I'm going to ruin this for you," she breathed. "Because if you think I'll let you steal Ridge's destiny, you've got another thing coming." With that, she turned and melted back into the crowd, leaving Nick to wrestle with a mixture of triumph and uncertainty. High above, on the rooftop terrace strewn with rose petals and twinkling fairy lights, Ridge paced like a caged lion. He had agreed to this excursion at Brooke's insistence, drawn by the promise of rekindling a love that had survived every test their tumultuous history could hurl at it. She believed that this moment, suspended between the promise of dusk and the magic of moonrise, could be their chance to rewrite the ending of a story they'd almost lost. But Ridge, still wounded by betrayals and fearfully protective of his heart, hesitated. His gaze drifted to the horizon, where the setting sun painted the sky in molten gold and ember red. Despite Brooke's impassioned pleas, his mind returned to Taylor's gentle strength, to the way her hand had soothed his doubts, to the quiet certainty he found in her company. Then, like a bolt of betrayal, a whisper reached his ear, "This night isn't just about you two." He turned to see Taylor's silhouette framed by the last light of day, her face drawn and determined. Below, Nick crept through the mirrored doors that led up to the rooftop, his pulse thrumming like a war drum. He paused in the antechamber, took a steadying breath, and reached into his pocket for the ring that would seal Brooke's fate. At the same moment, Taylor slipped a phone out of her clutch and tapped rapidly, sending Ridge a message. *, watch your back. "This isn't over." Ridge's phone buzzed in his pocket, and his heart lurched. He read the words, Taylor's words. Just as the terrace doors swung open and Nick emerged, ring box in hand, face alight with expectation. Brooke, sensing something electric in the air, rose onto tiptoe, her chest heaving with hope. But Ridge's eyes snapped from Brooke to Nick, and in that instant he saw the other man's open challenge, the hidden threat lurking behind that hopeful smile. Before Nick could kneel, Ridge stepped forward, voice low and unforgiving. "What are you doing here, Nick?" Nick's breath caught, but he forced a grin. "I'm here for Brooke. I'm here to give her everything you never could." Brooke cried out, "Nick, what?" But Ridge held up his hand, silencing her like a judge passing sentence. "This is between me and you." He turned to Nick, each word deliberate. "She's made her choice." With a gesture that was almost imperceptible, he signaled toward Brooke, who stood stunned, tears of confusion pooling in her eyes. "Let her go, Marone." As the music of the evening swelled below, Nick's shoulders slumped. In one fluid movement, he snapped the ring box shut and shoved it back into his pocket. Brooke's face crumpled, and Ridge ushered her to his side, but his grip was more protective than possessive, an acknowledgement that wounds ran deeper than promises. Meanwhile, Taylor lingered at the fringe of the terrace, arms crossed, her secret agenda humming like a hidden engine. She had planted the seeds of doubt at every turn, twisted truths into weapons, and ensured that tonight's events would fracture any fragile reunion. Yet as she watched Nick's shoulders slump in defeat and Ridge pull Brooke close, a flicker of something unexpected heated her chest, jealousy, regret, an unbidden pang for a chapter she feared she may have closed too cruelly. And then she remembered the final piece of her plan, the proclamation of her pregnancy. She would reveal it tomorrow, when all eyes were back on the ballroom stage, when Eric would once again speak of destiny and love. She would let the world know that Ridge's future would not be written by Brooke's pleas or Nick's grand gestures, but by the life she carried within her. A life that promised to bind Ridge to her forever with a bond stronger than any vow spoken on a rooftop. As the night deepened and the stars emerged over Tuscany, the power of Eric's tribute hung in the air like an unfinished promise. Yet beneath its glow, the engines of envy, heartbreak, and ambition roared with irresistible force. In the gilded world of Forrester Creations, where love is both muse and mercenary, every gesture of devotion hides a dagger poised to strike, and every whispered vow can unravel in an instant. And so the players on this grand Italian stage prepared for the next act, where proposals would be answered, betrayals exposed, and lives forever altered under the unforgiving glare of destiny's spotlight.
Oh.